Hey everyone, I am back with a new video and this is going to be a sketchbook tour. So let's get started. So the first sketchbook I am showing you, I started back in October 2015, just in time for my very first participation in Inktober. So this was around the time I was getting used to using a brush and liquid ink for inking my artworks, and that's why there's a lot of ink drawings in this one. And like always, the start of my sketchbook is fairly neat. It looks like I've got a theme going on, which actually helps me complete a sketchbook faster. At least that's how I've found it to be. But eventually, the sketchbook evolved into something messier since this was also around the time that the YouTube Artists Collective started. So you can see some of my brainstorming and inspiration sourcing in this sketchbook, and eventually it just got messier and messier from there. The next sketchbook I used simultaneously. Like, this was supposed to be my messy sketchbook. So the idea I had was I'd use two sketchbooks. The first one would be for drawings that I wanted to put a little more time into, whereas the second one, which is this one, would be where I would brainstorm, practice using references, or quickly draw out concepts and ideas that I had in mind. So with this sketchbook, I would use charcoal because it allows me to work quickly and, in a way, commit to the lines I would draw, because I don't really use an eraser with charcoal. Like, that's just my preference, though. I find that it really helps me be more careful with each stroke. Like, I have to think about it, but at the same time, it stops me from being a perfectionist, because usually when I draw with a pencil and I don't like how I've drawn a line, I would erase it. And not that I think that erasing is bad, but for me personally, whenever I have the chance to redo something, I somehow plant this idea in my head that I can make it perfect the second or third try, and that adds a lot of pressure for myself, which can sometimes put me off drawing because you have that doubt, and so you think it's going to turn out horrible, so like, why bother? And so with this sketchbook, I really wanted to loosen up, and I feel like charcoal is the medium that works for me in that sense. And I also added a gouache background for some of the sketches, which I think really helps clean up the drawing. It makes it look like it wasn't a super quick sketch. The last sketchbook is something I just finished recently. So these are basically a year's worth of sketchbooks, which I am super proud of because back then I struggled with finishing one sketchbook in a year, but this time I've finished three, so I'm kind of just patting myself on the back. I am super happy with this sketchbook because if you compare it to the previous two, the other two showed a decline in the quality of drawings as you reach the end page of the sketchbook, but with this one, it's so different. I started it as a journal and sketchbook, and I kind of stopped doing that towards the middle of the sketchbook, but then I had this sudden burst of inspiration and motivation. Like after a while of not drawing, in my sketchbook, I just suddenly wanted to draw every day. And so I was experimenting a lot towards the end of the sketchbook. Like I would glue in pieces of paper, photos, anything I wanted, and I went back to using it as a journal, but in a different approach. So I was really inspired by art journals that I've seen on Instagram and Tumblr. So that's what I tried to recreate in these last few pages. And I am really enjoying it so far. So, yeah, I ended the sketchbook before the start of Inktober this year, so I'm hoping I finish the same amount of sketchbooks next year as well, if not more. Fingers crossed, that is definitely one of my goals. And yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope the pace was okay and a lot better than the previous sketchbook video I had. If you did like it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also check out my social media, which are linked in the description box below. I've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.